Hi, and welcome back to PDA UK. As you can see, we're in a slightly different location. We're actually recording Grumpy Gets Together with Simon and Adam, but Chris and I are joining to do part 2 of our talk on ADHD. As you recall, in the last episode, we did one talking about the fact that Chris has recently been diagnosed, and we've started the journey on his medications. And you'll see coming up soon, there's going to be some shorts, which we basically is just Chris talking to camera, explaining how he's feeling at different stages throughout the whole process. But we wanted to do part 2. So Chris, how you doing, man?
Good. I mean, meeting up with you guys, it's just been such a laugh. It's
been nuts. We've had some time recording some stuff with TikTok and YouTube shorts, which you'll see, which includes the tortilla challenge and also drinking pilk. And if you don't know what that is, check it out. It's just ghastly. But anyway, so, I mean, where's things been? You started your meds, a week ago? No, a few days ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4 days ago, so that would have been, what day are we on now? It's Sunday, so I started on Thursday.
Wow, okay. Yeah. So, initially, what was the experience like? So once you'd taken that first dose?
I was very nervous first.
Yeah.
So he came through my door, and I was quite excited. So I had high hopes for this medication, and I opened the little box, popped it in, and nothing really at first for the first 5-10 minutes, and then I started, as I said in the shorts, feeling pressure around my temples.
Yeah.
Wasn't uncomfortable pressure. It was kind of like almost like a hug.
You said that it was almost like a positive pressure, like a nice feeling in a way.
Yeah, as it was, because it gradually went up, the pressure. And at first I was kind of nervous, thinking like, this is going it's going to feel like I'm getting my head strangled. But no, it got to a point and it stopped. So, and then eventually the pressure started to release on sides and started to almost envelope the entire brain.
Yeah.
Not the same pressure, but kind of evenly distributed all the pressure over. And that felt quite comfortable then.
So it's like a physical reaction to it, because you'd expect there to be the mental reaction, obviously, but you're saying initially it was really a physical response.
In terms of like the pressure and everything, yeah, definitely there was a physical reaction within my head as it kept on going up and up and up. And then eventually it kind of dissipated. You ever had someone, they pretend to break an egg on your head?
Yeah. Back when I had hair, it worked.
A little bit like that.
Oh, okay. I can kind of visualize that and get the sensation. There's 2 sides to this, I guess, is that you've told me already, and so I think it's important to relay in this, is that there's been 2 sides to this. There's been what you've found mentally, with how things have changed, but also physically. We start with the mental side, I guess, because that's the most obvious side. What was that change like? What happened?
Mentally, there's been some changes. In the last video, you'll notice, and I did explain that I'd have to stop and think about my words before I use them.
Yeah.
That seems to be, not seamless, but it seems to be flowing a lot easier now.
It's much more smooth and flowing in conversation.
There was almost like a touch of anxiety, because I just slow down, and then I feel like, what's the other person thinking that I'm slowing down now? So anxiety would play a part, because then I'd be thinking, what's the other person thinking? Well, I'm stopping and thinking when I should be finding a word. So it was like the embarrassment and the anxiety kind of.
And it's that tendency to overthink those situations then, isn't it, as well? Like, when you're lying in bed at night, and I don't know if anyone else does this, but I do it myself, where something will come up from freaking childhood, and I'll start, why did I say that? And it'll play in my mind, I can't get it out, and you're like, I can imagine that being part of it. It's like, what are they going to think of when I say this? And
overthinking is a huge aspect, and that's what I would go through before my medication. Now it seems like the anxiety's been taken out, so while I maybe pause for a moment to find my words, it's a lot quicker because I'm not having to think about what's the other person thinking. So my speech is a little bit more fluent.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
it really does, and it is kind of noticeable. It's not one of those things that it's like really obvious, but now you've said it and reflect on today and the stuff we've done, there is less of that sort of pausing between each thought. Your conversation's a lot more just smooth, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not something you sort of walk in and go, wow, he's coming. But now you've said that and I can reflect on it. You're absolutely right. There's that element there.
I don't think people stop and go, oh, he speaks weird. Or,
no, exactly. It was never something that I considered to be an issue. So I guess that's...
It's always like, that's how he speaks.
Yeah.
That's it. But for me, I was very, very much aware of how I was speaking.
Yeah.
And while my brain, I could feel it firing, it wasn't firing in the right way for me to get my words out.
Sort of like, there's almost like a canal or something, a bottleneck between where the brain and the mouth are working and what's actually getting through.
Yeah, and it would make me frustrated. And of course, I get frustrated, which makes me impatient. If I'm impatient, I start getting angry. I'm getting angry at myself. And all of the rest of the thoughts are swirling in my head, still trying to find a word.
Yeah.
While thinking, what's the other person it's thrown in as an ingredient. And that's the reason why I stopped so much. And now I feel, even in listening to it, I feel a lot calmer, a lot more composed, a lot more focused, and it's got a lot easier.
I mean, that's a really obvious thing, I guess, but that's a big part of it, is that focus. What's that been like, that shift in focus?
World changing. It's crazy how much it's changed me. I mean, I'm still balancing out because I've been obviously being on since Thursday.
And you're still in the low dose, aren't you? Because it goes up in increments.
Yeah. So it's been world changing. Even this low dose has been world changing for me. My focus is unbelievable. My memory has got better. I give myself breaks because there's still a couple of times where I'll forget something and maybe come to sort of the end of my medication, or it'll be a case that I'm trying to remember something before I was medicated. So if I wasn't focused enough to take the information in, there's nothing to remember. Yeah. So I'm less likely to beat myself up now. So I go, oh, wow, that was before.
Makes sense. I'm thinking also, when we spoke in the first conversation, you said to me that you had this thing where, like, when you were being interviewed for the diagnosis, when you were being in the consultation, the question was asked about, how many times you had to ask people to repeat themselves before you get to the, and you said, well, it's the first time you've asked a question that I haven't had to ask you to repeat. So how's that been? Is that noticeable change?
Yes, massive change.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you and I'm focused on you. I'm focused on your words. If I was undiagnosed, I know that my eyesight would be looking for the thing that's moving in the corner. Yeah. And I'm not tempted to do that. In fact, it was almost involuntary that if I saw something on the corner of my eye, like the shiny thing, I'd be like that.
The squirrel thing from up.
Just on that. My focus is just on that, and your words would go into one ear, out the other, and I wouldn't be able to translate the information you've given me. So the questions have become a lot easier because I'm able to focus prior to hear the words you're saying. Yeah. As you're saying it, my brain's working, and then obviously brain mouth answer, and it's a lot easier.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. The thing that really surprised me, so obviously we've been talking about this through the day as we've been doing stuff. Something you mentioned, which I thought was really interesting, is something that I never ever hear discussed at all, is that there was a physical change. Like, so we all consider the mental sort of side, I'm less distracted, I'm more flowing in conversation, the sort of things that, whilst not necessarily expected, make sense. I've never heard anyone talk about the physical side of it. What's the physical side been like?
See, I'm a little bit confused because I'm not entirely sure it is ADHD related. The reason I say that is because it hasn't been talked about. Nobody has talked about it. So for me, what would happen is fatigue would set in. If I found something, I'm assuming if I found something that didn't stimulate dopamine in my brain, my body would react to feel aches and pains, which I discussed. Yeah. Now, those aches and pains are gone, no matter how much I'm doing the job. My first day that I took my dose, I did the garden, flipped up the leaves, incredibly dull, Monday.
Stuff even I find dull.
Tidied up the house. I went into the dining room where I had sand on the table, and I'd stained it. Problem is, I didn't put the filter bag on the back of the orbital sander, which means it plastered the entire room with dust. So what I did is I went in there and put this off frames. What I did is I got Hoover, put on the attachment with the brush, I hoovered every single wall, all the ornaments, the big mirror, the window frames, the drawers that run along the entire side, around the TV, literally every inch. And not once did I feel pains or aches. I was so confused by that because I'm going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and usually my arm starts to hurt. And I thought, that's just my arm hurting because I'm doing this and I'm holding it up for so long. It's just my limits.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm on medication and I'm going back and forth and I'm waiting for my arm to get.
But it ties in time-wise.
Yeah.
And it makes sense to me because I think sometimes you often hear about that sort of a physical reaction. So we talk about sensory processing disorder.
Yeah.
Eye contact for certain people who have sensory processing disorder or autistic or whatever, they can get a physical pain because of the fact that they're making eye contact. It just, the brain processes it as a pain.
Yeah.
And a physical pain. So to me, that would kind of tie in. If your brain's processing that agitation, it's creating something maybe to stop you from so that it can go on to the next dopamine hit.
It sounds like a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And I never knew. I never put two and two together. When I felt tired, I felt aches, I thought, that's my physical limits. I'm done.
Yeah.
And suddenly I take medication. And I've heard other people saying they've done tasks that they've been putting off for ages. And I think I was on the phone to you, actually.
Yeah.
I was doing the leads.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, it's this time of year.
It was like you see in the movies, ready for the big pile of Augusta wind to come along and just wipe it off.
So I'm in my back garden on the phone to you.
Yeah.
And of course, because I'm on the phone to you, I've got one hand here and I've got, I swept it all up and I've got the shovel. And literally, I'm getting the shovel, picking it up while speaking and chopping it.
Yeah,
well,
you were multitasking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not me bigging myself up with strength.
Your leaves are so heavy.
I mean, the shovel itself it's like a galvanized shovel. It is particularly hard. What I mean is that I've done that before,
yeah,
but I've done it when I was unmedicated. I don't know, maybe 10, 20 goes, and then I'm done. My back's hurting, my legs are hurting, my arms are hurting, my shoulders are hurting, everything's screaming, stop, you've done enough. I put two and two together and thought, that's your physical limit. Now suddenly I'm doing the same with one arm. I haven't worked out anything. This doesn't make sense. So it feels like, because I'm assuming there's a dopamine hit there, and I'm not trying to get out of the situation subconsciously, I'm able to do that physically, which is unbelievable, because this, now it feels like a superpower.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to downgrade ADHD or anything like that. What I'm saying is that I've been kind of given my life back.
Yeah.
And this is what normal people feel like. And I'm thinking, I've lost so much time. It's got worse as I've got older. Because I think in my younger days, even that pain,
you kind of push through as a kid, don't you? Or a younger person. Yeah.
Dopamine was probably easier to get, because obviously a younger brain is easier to sponge in. Obviously I haven't been through all the experiences that I've been through now. So I got to almost 40, and then I realised those pains and aches and everything. I'm just thinking, it's age. Suddenly it goes, and I feel 21 again. And I think I said to you that whenever I bend over and pick something up, I'm like,
I do that, but for completely different reasons.
Now I run around picking stuff up, and it's as if there's no pain there whatsoever. Even sitting in the car when I go pick up my son from school, I always go half an hour earlier than I need to, just to get a decent parking space, or parking space at all. And whenever I do that, I have to crack the seat back so I can lean back and put a foot up, because the bottom of my back, even with a comfortable seat that I've got in my car, it starts to ache. And it's almost like the top half of my body putting pressure on the bottom, and the shoulders go and everything. That's why I put it all the way back. And the first day, I was fine. I had my seat upright. I was on my phone. And the entire time I was fine. I mean, even now, I feel like right, I'm strong. So it feels like almost like a superpower now that for 12 hours, a little bit like Banana Man. But instead of bananas, and even working out, my stamina is a lot different. I'm not saying I'm stronger because I think I probably would have been able to lift as much as I did now as before, but in terms of how far I can push myself with that strength, those aches aren't stopping me. So it feels like a superpower.
It makes sense to me. I mean, you're not interested in this conversation when you've had this with somebody else we both know. I won't name them because it wouldn't be fair to you right now, but they relayed a similar experience of that physical change. That they're an ADHD, obviously, and they've gone through the process. They've been diagnosed. They're on a medication for it, and they found the same thing happen. So it's not unique to you. Which to me makes, I think I'd love to see more research done on this and hear more about it, because it's mind-boggling to me, it's baffling and amazing. I think it's something that makes so much sense, and it's something that, like we say, it hasn't been really tackled. Last question before we sort of wrap this up, ready for the next, because we did this in a few parts. If you haven't already got that, we were going to do it in 2 parts, but we've actually thought, it's so interesting at the moment, let's do a few more. One of the big things you talked about was in the first conversation we had was about the relationship with your kids. And a big part of this was wanting to ensure that you were, at the beach, and you weren't just getting bored and we need to go and do it. There was a big thing on your mind. Have you noticed this early juncture? Have you noticed a change in that?
It's changed massively.
So in a few days?
Huge strides, The difference is, I mean, one of the examples is that I watched a movie yesterday with, I think it was the animated Grinch, and I was able...
He was, because we were actually, you said that we were messaging about the Grinch before.
So I was able to sit with them and watch the entire movie, which never would have happened in the past. The other thing is that I've got a lot more patience, and I give them the time of day before I would find myself. Like they come on, Dad, can you do this? Or Dad, do you want to do this? And I'll be like, no, go away, just go away. I'm trying to do this, or I'm trying to do that. It was effects like I said about before, about getting aches and pains and everything. As soon as they became in the vicinity, and I felt like I was relaxing while having those pains, I was trying to repair myself. They would come along and say, can you do this, or can you do it, or Dad, can you get this? I'd be like, just go away, just go away. And now it's, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? I'm like, I'll get up. So the difference, I've got mentally, I've got patience. Physically, I can do and play and do things with them. So it's made a huge difference between me and my kids. I know it's going to take a long time to get where I want to be, because my 2 children, one's 10, one's 8. So for the 10-year-old, 2-3 years they start to develop proper memories and stuff. So for 7 or 8 years, he's had memories of me being like this. Before I was taking medication. So 4 days in that I'm being sort of a different dad, that's not going to cut it. I need to be this continuously all the way through his life. Aiming to go, right, this is my dad, not he's in a good mood. And that goes for the same with my youngest one, is that I need to carry this on, which I'm more than confident. This is me now. The only time where I start to slip back into those old ways is when my medication starts wearing off, because I've got 12 hours. Once that 12 hours is up, I don't feel like mentally I lose my patience or start being snappy with people, but I do feel the tide effects mentally and physically. It almost like it builds up. Everything I've done in the day builds up mentally and physically, and then as soon as that medication wears off, it goes, there we go.
Delivers it all at once, and you really got
you're just... like I said, I felt 21 when I take the medication. As soon as that wears off, I feel like 70. So I'm all hunched over and everything, which is why I've got to be strategic with what time I'm taking. Because if I take it at 7 in the morning, 7 at night, it's gone. So I've got to be very, very careful when I take it, when the kids are.
Be interesting to see as doses increase and so forth as come along, see if there's a change in that, if it is prolonged or if it.
I think it is literally 12 hours. There may be a slight after effect, but as I get used to the drug, that's the reason why they kind of up the dosage, so you still get the same effect. Yeah. So I am looking forward to carrying this on and seeing if I can keep going with it all. I wish it just lasted sort of continuously. 16
hours even, so you could just crash and go to sleep. Yeah.
They can make it 14. I could take it first thing in the morning, as soon as I wake up for breakfast, and then it'd last me until minutes. So I've got to be strategic with how I take it to make sure that I'm getting the most out of what I do.
That's awesome. Well, man, thanks so much, because I think it's just so interesting hearing where it's all going. As I said before, we will be revisiting this. I doubt we'll be in this same room again next time. We'll be back in our usual little studios, but we will carry this on. So in a couple of weeks, we're going to come back and revisit this and see where things are at with the medications. One thing I do want to reiterate before we wrap this up is that this is Chris's story. This is what's right for him. We're not advocating that if you've chosen that you don't want meds and you're an ADHD, that is entirely your decision. We're not saying this is why you should or shouldn't. This is Chris's experience in Chris's life and what's happening for him at the moment. So please do go hit like, hit subscribe, ring the bell. You'll always know when new content's coming up. I will see you again on the next episode, but in the meantime, stay safe.